A group of hikers came across a spine-chilling sight, a strange green figure, eerily human-like, slowly climbing a tree. As they watched in shock, the figure turned its gaze toward them, sending a wave of terror through their bodies. Panic-stricken, they swiftly dialed 911, realizing they were confronted with something utterly beyond their comprehension. The dispatcher's voice crackled and faltered through the phone, barely audible due to the poor reception deep in the forest. The hikers' blood ran cold as the distorted voice hinted at something far more unsettling than they had anticipated, leaving them paralyzed in the haunting wilderness. Suddenly, the creature charged at them on all fours. The three hikers bolted, not daring to glance back or at each other. When Luke, gasping for breath, finally slowed down, he realized he was completely alone. He could no longer see the creature, nor his companions. With no messages from his friends on his phone, Luke felt trapped and directionless. He considered staying put, but knew he'd need shelter if he had to spend the night. With little choice, he picked a direction and began to walk, hoping it would lead him to safety. After almost 2 hours of walking, Luke finally encountered something that made his eyes light up. It had already gotten completely dark, and Luke was using his flashlight to guide him. He couldn't believe his luck. At first, he thought it might be a mirage or something. He felt the doorknob, but as he expected, the door was locked. Luke doubted how best to get inside. There was clearly nobody there. He could kick the door in, but then he wouldn't be able to lock it again to protect himself from the outside. But as Luke was weighing his options, he suddenly started hearing sounds in the distance. Movement, leaves rustling. Something was getting closer. Luke tried not to panic. Kicking the door in seemed like his only option. Then he saw a strange stone beside the door. He quickly turned it over, and bingo, there was a key beneath the rock. With his hands shaking and the sounds behind him growing ever closer, Luke managed to put the key into the lock and open the door. He went in and closed the door behind him as quickly as possible. Finally, he felt a little bit safe again, but this feeling of peace was short-lived. Just a minute later, he heard a beating on the door. Luke held his breath. His instinct told him not to open the door under any circumstances, but then he suddenly heard a voice, a very scared voice, but one that Luke immediately recognized. It was Ethan, one of his friends who had been hiking with him. Ethan was screaming to be let in. Something was coming after him, and he had nowhere else to go. Luke took a deep breath and opened the door for him. Ethan almost fell into the small cabin, and Luke immediately closed the door behind him. Ethan looked up, surprised to see Luke. Luke immediately started bombarding Ethan with questions, mainly about where the hell Asher was, their third hiking companion. Ethan explained that he and Asher had been running together for a while. The creature had come after them both, and with no other choice, they decided to split up. The creature had gone after Asher in the dim light of the cabin. Luke and Ethan, hearts pounding with a mix of dread and determination, agree that they can't leave Asher alone in the wilderness. Scouring the cabin, they hastily assemble a makeshift kit, a flashlight with dwindling batteries, a frayed map of the area, and a sturdy rope that lay forgotten in a corner. As they step into the night's embrace, the forest around them seems to inhale, a silent observer to their trepidation. In a clearing, they spot Asher perched high in an old tree, his body trembling like a leaf in the wind. Huddled together, they plot their return to the relative safety of the hut. "We need to avoid the paths," Luke suggests, his voice low. "It might be watching." With each cautious step through the dark labyrinth of trees, the men are acutely aware of the symphony of nocturnal sounds around them. The hut emerges from the darkness like a beacon of hope, its familiar walls offering a promise of temporary safety. The gravity of their situation is palpable as tired eyes remain vigilantly fixed on the small windows, piercing the darkness for any sign of movement. As hours crawl by, the strain of their ordeal tightens its grip. Huddled together in the dim light, they begin to whisper theories about the creature. Is it guarding something or someone? Ethan muses, his voice laced with fear. In a moment of resolute courage, Luke outlines a bold strategy to confront the creature. "If we can't outrun it, we'll outsmart it here," he declares, conviction in his voice. His plan hinges on the element of surprise and their knowledge of the hut's layout, a glimmer of hope in their desperate situation. Quickly, they transform the hut into an elaborate trap. Every move is calculated, turning their once peaceful refuge into a battleground. With a collective breath, they brace for what may come, the bond of their friendship their strongest armor. Gathering every ounce of bravery, Luke slowly turns the door handle, the creaking sound echoing like a gunshot in the tense silence. Drawn by the opening, the creature moves toward the hut, its movements cautious yet curious. As it crosses the threshold, the trap springs to life. They grapple with the creature, their efforts synchronized, driven by the singular goal of overpowering their mysterious assailant. Amidst the chaos, a startling realization dawns on them. The creature, its movements, once thought to be predatory, now seems clumsy, less certain. With a final concerted effort, they pin the creature down, its movements growing weaker under their combined strength. With a collective gulp, they pull off the mask, unveiling the truth hidden beneath. The mask comes away, revealing not a monster, but the face of a man. Staring back at them are a pair of all too human eyes, filled with surprise and fear. He admits to dressing up as the creature, a twisted prank born from his own boredom and thrill-seeking. His words, laced with a mix of regret and disbelief, paint a picture of a joke gone too far. In a mixture of anger and disbelief, Luke, Ethan, and Asher confront the prankster. "Your joke could have cost us our lives," Luke exclaims, his voice heavy with accusation. The man's face falls, the gravity of his actions becoming painfully clear as he is faced with the consequences of his reckless game. As they search the hut, they uncover a stash of green suits and masks, each a chilling replica of the creature that haunted them. The three friends huddle together, discussing their next steps. "We can't just let him go," Ethan insists, a sentiment echoed by the others. Using the last bars of signal on their phone, they contact the authorities. Explaining the situation proves challenging. Their story sounds like something out of a bizarre tale. Red and blue lights pierce the darkness of the forest as the authorities arrive. Relief washes over the trio as they lead the officers to the prankster. He is taken into custody, a look of remorse etched onto his face. For Luke, Ethan, and Asher, it's the end of a surreal ordeal, one that they will not soon forget.